Welcome everyone to the Wetteradler satellite imagery analysis. Today we're gonna talk about modern storm creation and the role of modern NEXRAD radars. NEXRAD radar is standing for Next Generation Radar, and the short term for it is the WSR-88D, which is standing for Weather Surveillance Radar 1988 Doppler. Most of the satellite images are combined. If you take a look on infrared, if you take a look on the regular satellite view like we see in front of us now, and if you combine it with the locations of these NEXRAD radars, it creates a full picture, at least for us. So we have a perfect example today. Today is the June 5th, 2021. And it's 6:30, and we are here on windy.com. What we see in front of us is a low pressure system over Spain, and you can see it's low pressure. It's turning anti-clockwise, and you can see also these puffs coming from the ground, shooting stuff into the stratosphere. You can see it clearly also here on the water, on the ocean. These puffs are, these condensation spots are moving actually. It's super interesting. And on the ground, you can see that they are emitting synchronized, like the whole country pretty much from south to north is emitting something from specific points. Also here on the west side of Madrid, you can see the emission spots right around 1 o'clock today. 1 to 2 o'clock, you can see the emissions. If you go back and forth a little bit faster, you can clearly see how this whole thing is orchestrated. And you can also think about it differently. You can say, why would nature ever burst something into the air synchronized on a whole different spot? Let's say, well, this is 1,000 kilometers approximately, right, or 800 kilometers. So why would it emit something within half an hour in the south and at the same time in the north, like this these condensation spots? So why would nature ever do that? So we can see this whole thing. It looks like it's being done, it's being made, being created. And now we're gonna take a look on some more details with this whole thing. For this, we're gonna switch to the actual weather radar, where we have some more details about the moisture and the actual rain inside these artificial cloud systems. And we see several things on this view. Let's just pause somewhere where we can see it clearly. So the first thing we see is we got plenty of these stripes coming out of somewhere, right? So we have this this one thing here located, and you can see it's actually separated. So this means it's a pulse. And the Doppler radar, the NEXRAD radar system, is able to pulse, to send out frequencies and pulse them. So this is clearly visible here that it's being pulsed, right? You have on, off, on, off, on, off. So that's a pulse at a certain frequency. What frequency it is, we can't say. In our opinion, it has to do something with the resonance frequencies of these particles, which you see right here, which are being emitted from these spots. That's our theory. And you can also go to the spots where these radar, I would not say it's an anomaly, radar anomaly, because maybe it's just how this whole thing works. For one, it's pulsed. You can see it right here. You can also see it here at this time. It's 2 o'clock here. So all these things are pulsed, right? So I can zoom in a little bit more so you can see it better. This one is pulsed, and the center of this beam is somewhere here. And then this one is also pulsed. Obviously, it's on a different frequency, right? You can see the wavelength from this spot to this spot. It's much longer than on this radar pulsing something different, pulsing a different frequency, right? It's shorter. The gaps are shorter. So this thing is obviously able to pulse. And also here on the east coast of Spain, you can see the star beams coming out of this one spot south from Valencia. But we are interested in the center of this whole storm thing, or what it's called. And we know in the past that Spain has been hit by floods, severe floods, pretty significantly. So it's important what we are observing here. I mean, people are actually dying and people losing their homes because of some floods, which we are being said to that it's natural, or it's a natural phenomenon, it has to do something with climate change whatsoever. So we should just buy this whole thing. But as you can see right here, just take a look at this thing. You have some rain clouds, and you have many of these lightning strikes and whatnot. So it's pretty severe around Madrid, right? If you see the dark reds, it's actually like thunderstorms. It does not say something about how severe it is, but you can see on the scale on the right hand side, it's pretty strong, right? And if you have something like this red spot here where the cursor is, if you have something like this around you, around your house, I can tell you it's super windy, it is heavy rain, and sometimes it's also frozen rain. So you have these golfing ball sized hail stones coming down, raining onto you, and actually damaging things, right? Damaging houses, cars, and whatnot. So these red spots where the lightnings are, it's definitely worth talking about that. And you can see this whole thing is turning left. It's moving anti-clockwise. So it's moving from, just take a look at Madrid. It's funny enough that Madrid, the center, is a city, and this whole thing is rotating anti-clockwise around the city. But it's not actually around the city itself. If you take a close look, the center, the origin of this whole rotation, it's somewhere south from Madrid. And the beams, you see the beams coming out here, being shot out, the pulse frequencies. You can see that on certain, if I stop here, you can go in and actually find the origin of these beams. So if you just continue the beam to the source, it is somewhere here. So we can go in further and further. So we see, okay, this beam is going here, it's somewhere below, somewhere south from Parla, and this one also, and this one also. So somewhere in this region is the origin of this whole pulse frequency rotation whatsoever thing. And funny enough, the whole storm system is also, it looks like that the center of the storm system is in the same region. So it's getting interesting now. So let's do something like, we need to find out where exactly the origin is, and we have an assumption that there might be a NEXRAD radar, right? So we want to be certain that we don't want to guess here or something. We want to be certain. So we need to find this NEXRAD radar. Maybe there is none, right? Maybe there is none. But let's do something like this. So because I'm German, I know it's called a NEXRAD radar, and it's called, in German, it's called Wetterradar. So it's the radar for the weather. So because I'm not familiar with Spanish, let's just take this thing up here. It's a translator, and we look for radar. Oh, first we have to switch this whole thing to Spain. So German, Spanish, and then we go for radar. And we follow, it's radar control, whatever. So radar. Now we go to Wetter, and it's something called tiempo. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry guys if you are Spanish and I'm bad at pronouncing things. So tiempo and radar. So it's pretty simple. We then go to Google and we go to let's say tiempo radar. It's probably wrong because there's something missing. Tiempo radar, I think it's called del radar del tiempo. So it's something like that. It's a grammar, Spanish grammar, something. So what we now do is we go to radar del tiempo Madrid, because it's located around Madrid, right? So then we gonna go to maps, because we want to see where this whole thing is located, and there it is. That was fast, actually. I didn't expect that. But where are we? Let's switch to satellite view. So we have this thing. I think that it's something like forecast or something, like Vorhersage. emit, I don't know, and I don't care. But this thing looks very familiar. So this is the NEXRAD station. It's a Doppler radar. Obviously, it's pretty obvious, right? This is the whole thing. We know these things. And there in the background, you also see the, well, this picture is probably not from today, but you see these storm, whatever that is. It's this whole chemical thing which you see is shooting up into the sky, into the stratosphere, and it's consisting out of like many chemical compounds and stuff, and heavy metal compounds, because it's also so soft and going so high and everything. So the actual water amount is not so much, but it's chemicals. So these radars can communicate with this thing, and you can even see the scalar waves here in the sky, right? You can see the lines. Anyway, so this is our radar, and it's located here. And someone also thought of taking a nice picture of his car in this beautiful. Let's stop here. All right, so we got our radar here. So where is it? We zoom out, and then we see, oh, there's Parla. That's interesting. So these things are coming out of here, and there's Parla. So let's go a little bit more detailed. So we have this thing there. We can see this beam is, the center of this beam is somewhere here, and that's Parla. So it's not even, it's south of Madrid and south of Parla. So then we switch back to, where it is, to this thing, no, to this thing here. And so we have Parla, and then we go, where was this thing? Let's go back. I lost, oh, there it is, okay. So it's pretty messy. So we are here south of the road, south of this this highway. So Parla, south of Parla, southeast Parla, and then we have the highway. So there it is, and it looks pretty good that this one might be the one. I need to switch views like this. So where's our road? There is Parla, there's our road. So here at this location is our NEXRAD station, right? So there it is, just confirming. There is our radar, and so it's pretty much exactly in the middle of this S curve. So we have our radar here, and now we can see, wow, this one matches exactly. So this beam we see here, it's definitely coming out of this location. So, and even if you go with this one, it looks pretty much like the center of this whole thing. Oh, I just moved it. Look, it's at the center. Let's call it the center, right? So we marked it, and let's take a look how it behaves. Oh, that was a nice one. See, this one is coming directly out of this radar. You can see the distance. I mean, this is massive, right? It's a massive distance. And so we know now these beams are definitely coming out of the NEXRAD radars, and we also see that they are pulsed. And funny enough, this whole storm system is moving around the NEXRAD station, right? Just take a look. It's moving, it's rotating anti-clockwise perfectly around this NEXRAD radar. Well, that's interesting. So what about climate change now? What about this whole thing here? Let's switch back and take a look at this. Here we are. That's our weather currently in Spain, around Madrid. I don't know how many people are living here, but it's pretty windy, it's pretty rainy, many people get wet, and maybe even worse. So, of course, we cannot see the details here, but let's sum it up. We have these somewhat artificial condensation bursting points. So these bursting points, they are synchronized. You see it, they are synchronized, and funny enough also that it's a pretty straight line here and a pretty straight line here also, and these bursts are happening exactly on this straight line. See that? So that's very funny. Well, it's not funny, but interesting. And we have that, and then in the south also, and then we have something here on the water, but let's not bother with that. Maybe it contributes somehow to this whole system, but maybe this one is also important because it's going somewhere north, and creating some rain here in France or whatnot. It's pretty complex, right, how this whole thing is being orchestrated. But we can just confirm what we are seeing with our own eyes. So let's not speculate about something. And also, if people say, well, there you can see it's a HAARP, 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 and everywhere it's called HAARP. Well, HAARP is an old antenna system in Alaska. And we cannot see we don't have any evidence of HAARP being somewhat related to this whole thing we see here. Even if we switch to NASA Worldview now, and we are lucky because the satellite has already been here and taken a picture, so we get some nice photos with lots of details. This is actually the best one for spotting details. So again, you can see the straight line here, and you can see the straight line here, and then this whatever flag or something, smoke flag, smoke plume, whatever that is coming out of this whole thing. This is definitely doesn't look like a natural cloud or something, right? It's going way too high. You can see the distance here because of the shadow casting. And this whole thing looks like a smoke plume. Look at all these soft edges, at all these whatever this thing is, right? So it's pretty complex. So you have NASA Worldview. You can spot certain things here. You can also go back the days and see some scalar waves here. Most of the time, Spain has many of these scalar waves. You can see. Most of the time you can see patterns. These scalar wave interferometry, scalar interferometry, anywhere on the globe. You can go to the United States, you can go to Alaska itself, you can go to Germany, China, Australia. Everywhere you can see these scalar wave patterns, these frequency patterns. And what do you think is more likely? That one or a couple of old antenna systems, and one of them is based in Alaska. I think that's the origin of this technology, and who knows what Russia has or China. But what is more likely, that this old antenna system is responsible for creating all these frequencies around the whole world, or that full-blown NEXRAD network, which is overlapping in all the countries, all these locations of the NEXRAD radars, you can see them everywhere. Just go to your local weather services and look for weather radar, whatever it's called in your language, and then you see these Doppler NEXRAD stations, and this is it's a huge network. And what gives you more control about the weather and the particles and stuff? One old antenna system, maybe a couple of antenna systems around the globe, or this full-blown network of antenna systems. So it's just use your own gut feeling and logic here. What is responsible for all these frequencies around us in the sky? This is, by the way, it looks like natural clouds. This is the size of natural clouds, right? So this is natural. And look at the size. Look at how small these clouds are. And these clouds also can be thunderstorms. It's no problem. These can be a thundercloud. It can have a charge and then it just rains and stuff. This is how it should be, like this size. But what we got here, I mean, look at this. Look at the scale of this whole thing. Because we get used to seeing this over generations, we being indoctrinated. This thing has some sort of a name. They come up with fancy name for these artificial things, and because it has a scientific name, everyone is like, "Oh yeah, I understand. This one is natural because it has a scientific name, and someone has given it a name, right?" But this is how clouds are supposed to look like. This is the actual size of clouds, and it's big enough. I mean, sometimes this is like a whole village. This is like a whole small city or something, and it's big enough. And then it rains because the gravity is dominating over the tension and energy between the water molecules, the hydrogen bond. The cloud is getting bigger and bigger. The moisture in the air is condensating around some dust in the air, some regular dust which is flying on a natural basis in the air, and then the molecules are condensing around these little dirt spots in the air. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and also the water molecules, the H2O molecule, they are bonding together. It's an energetic bond. but because of modern technology, because of frequencies in the atmosphere, artificial frequencies, radars, and the NEXRAD radar you have just seen, the pulse frequency of the NEXRAD, they are destroying these natural bonds of the natural cloud formation. It's not possible anymore to let clouds form on a natural basis because we have so much pollution. We have fossil fuels. We have cars still driving with oil, and the whole pollution thing on Earth. Not just frequency pollution, but especially frequency pollution. Also, it's getting more and more and more. You also have the regular pollution. It has started in the industrial age, where every industry was putting out a lot of dust and smoke into the atmosphere, and it was just saturated, oversaturated. So these natural cloud systems, they cannot easily form. The way we live today, or the way we are forced to live today, based on oil, based on fossil fuels, and all this frequency stuff in the air, and the mobile phone, and all these, our standard, our civilized standard, it has led that natural clouds cannot easily form on their own. So that's also the reason why we have these droughts getting more and more, because these cloud systems, they cannot form. They are normally they are in the lower troposphere, in the lower atmosphere. But because these clouds would on a natural basis would form in the lower troposphere, they can't because of the fossil fuels going up into the atmosphere, and also because of the whole radiation thing, the whole frequency network. So they are radiating into the lower atmosphere, which are destroying these energetic bonds of the natural clouds. So the only way to make it rain is on an artificial basis via these controlled condensations, which are then being pulsed and going in resonance with these NEXRAD frequencies. I mean, it's super clear to see here. They are pulsed. We have just seen there is a NEXRAD radar. It was somewhere here. There it is. And it's definitely the origin of these beams and this whole thing, because the NEXRAD radar, it's also able to rotate. So that's important to understand. These NEXRAD radar stations, they are able to not only pulse on a certain frequency, and also what we've seen, it's different frequencies, but this whole thing can also rotate. So what if, and that's a theory, what if these particles being shot out here on an artificial basis, so chemical compounds bonded together with water somehow, they have a certain resonance frequency, which is being known by these radars, and then the radar is pulsing on the exact resonance frequencies of these particles. And then while it's doing that, so it has established a communication. It's literally, this radar is communicating with the particles in these artificial cloud systems. So the cloud system itself is now following the order of the NEXRAD radar, the dominating NEXRAD radar, because we got several radars, right? But there's a dominant one. And it looks like in this case, it's this one around Madrid, south of Madrid. And this dominating NEXRAD radar, which takes the lead over the particles, is then rotating. So, and by the NEXRAD radar rotating and communicating with the particles, guess what? This whole thing can move, with the center and the origin being the NEXRAD radar. Just think about that.